Oh, we're at 7,775 feet. 5 more miles till the top. We'll be at 9,914 feet according to the sign on the side of the road. At least the road is dry. Last night I came over, probably between 11, 10, 11, 12. I had a chain up coming over this empty. I bought a 20-ton bottleneck low profile jack. I got those triple rails on nice and tight. And it was so bad yesterday that even though I had all those chains on, I was still spinning out. My drives were sliding this way and that. And usually when I have chains on like that, I roll down the windows so I can listen to the chains, because if they break, I want to know so that I can slow down, trying to find a place where I can not fix them, but make it so that those broken cross links are bungeed down or away from the tire so that they don't slap the fenders, break mud flaps, and break whatever they're going to break. And I usually put my window or the mirrors down so that I can kind of see them a little bit, you know. And I'm spinning out and going up the hill, and I didn't get stuck, but I was watching the chains on my driver's side, and they were just sparking like crazy. It's like, dang. I don't usually do that, but I had those suckers on tight last night. Didn't break them or anything. I just headed up the hill, got over to the other side and took them off, and then I proceeded to do about 15 miles an hour all the way down to Duchesne because it was snow covered. I think at one point I was only going like 15 up the hill, and then when I started coming down the hill, it's an 8% grade, so I was doing about 10. Luckily, they got these guardrails in case my trailer decides to try to go around me. But I was taking it easy and didn't have a problem with that. Sucks. Every time I got to put chains on, it takes me about 2 hours to get them on exactly right. And I don't like them flopping around because I don't like dealing with broken chains. Just get them on tight. That's why I bought that bottleneck jack. It's like $60 or something like that. Loaded up to somewhere around 102 to 104,000 pounds. And right now I'm going about 18, 19 miles an hour. Probably slow down to about 15 before the top. Got 3 miles till we get to the top. 2 or 3. Luckily, I don't have a doubles phone or going up the hill in front of me. Those guys only go about 10, 12 miles an hour. Kind of sucks. I don't get paid to chain up, but it takes me about 2 hours. Takes me about 15 minutes to pull them off, unless they're screwed up somehow. But I put my tablet where I usually put my phone. I use the tablet for my electronic driver log, or it's called an ELD. I think it's electronic log device. Anyway, I was like, I'm going to put this over here for a second just so I can record the hill today. You guys should have seen it last night, though. Oh my gosh. It is no fun. That, and so I don't get paid to chain up, but it takes a bit to do it. And anytime I have to lay iron down, I flip and lose out on getting a load. $275 a load. So that's no fun. I'm glad we're getting all this snow because we need it. Last year, my water shares were only worth 35% because of the drought. And the power company was trying to buy all the shares off of all the farmers. Not buy them, but lease them. Make a couple $1,000s on that because they didn't have enough water, or they were worried they wouldn't have enough water, but oh, they had enough. So usually when I get down to this point where I'm climbing this hill, I'll put my lockers in and my diffs in. That way I evenly distribute the weight and don't break an axle or the pressure on the axles. Sometimes I'll even lift up my tag axle just to put more weight on my drives. Last night when I came over, when I was loaded, it was snowing, but it wasn't sticking too bad. But there was spots where it was sticking. I lifted up my front tag axle on my trailer to put more weight on my drives, and I lifted up my tag axle on my truck to put more weight on my drives, and I was able to make it over just fine. You don't have that option when you're driving up a hill empty. Of course, if it was any worse than it was, I would have just put chains on, and I still would have done what I did with the tag axles. Don't need a 5, 6, 700 tow bell. I don't know what it is here, but one time when I was in Lake Tahoe, or Truckee, I was in Truckee, California on 80 going over Donner's Pass. And I pulled into the Shell station just to the south of the interstate. They had a big parking lot there, and it wasn't really a truck stop, but you could get it around there, and they didn't mind. But I didn't realize it was a sheet of ice in that parking lot. Just bad. Whew, this is a sheet of ice too. In fact, I'm going to lift up my tag axles because I can see on the road the ice. It's not just water. Anyway, I was driving truck, and I used to deliver kitchen cabinets to Reno and Carson City, Nevada, and around that area. And then I'd head on over to Nevada City or go over to Placerville or Placerville or whatever it's called. In fact, I was over in Placerville one time, Placerville, whatever it's called, Auburn. But anyway, I was over there in Placerville one time with a load of kitchen cabinets for Chuck Norris. I didn't get to meet Chuck, but had his kitchen cabinets for his house up there in the hills. Anyway, that truck, it was at the gas station, the Shell in Truckee, it was just a sheet of ice. And the parking lot's it's kind of on an angle. It's not flat. So every time I would like try to move, I'd slide downhill a little bit. Put chains on, didn't matter. I was sliding down that hill. I had to call a wrecker out to pull me out of that truck stop, and it was like 700, 750, something like that. That was back in like 2000 or no, it was 1998 or 99. I can't remember. Anyway, here's the top of the hill, 9,114 feet. Now I will put my tag axle back down and release the lockers and the differentials. Put my Jake brake in here. Come down the other side. Oops. Usually come down this thing about 30 miles an hour. Never even smoked my brakes. I just know how to drive. A lot of guys run this thing about 25-ish. Some guys do like 15 or 10. Oh, those guys drive me nuts. Like, if I had more time, it wouldn't be such a big deal to get stuck behind those guys. There's some guys right there cross country skiing. A lot of people like that up here on this hill. A lot of snowmobilers that go off on the trails. I think that would be fun. Have a snowmobile. I haven't been snowmobiling since I was a kid. Used to love snowmobiling all over Clark County, Spencer, Idaho. In fact, that's the only way we get down to the bus stop to get on the bus sometimes, because there was so much snow up there. And Spencer, Idaho's in Menida Pass, and the wind would blow south in the morning and north in the evening, or something like that. Anyway, they'd just drift everything in, especially our driveway. They had snowshoes to go out to the garage or walk down to the store or whatever. Oh, I'm coming up on, oh, that's one of our drivers right there. He's going kind of slow. He's got a nice Peterbilt 18 speed, I think. Anyway, so I take the snowmobile down to where the bus was and park it there. And sometimes when I got back from school, I'd have to pull the shovel out, just dig out the snowmobile and try to get it to start so I could go home. It's kind of nice. My grandparents had a jewelry store, gas station. They owned this opal mine about 7 miles east as the bird flies, I guess, of Spencer. And we used to mine those opals. Started helping my grandpa in the mine when I was 8 years old. He was a double leg amputee of World War II. He lost his legs saving his platoon. He'd gotten shot on Guadalcanal or Iwo Jima, or I don't know if that's the same place. Maybe it's a group of islands, I don't know. Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima. I think it's Guadalcanal. Actually, I think I heard something about Bougainville.
Around now, get down.
What's that?
I'll slide over when you get close. Is your TV on?
You talking to this Jade? Oh, I hate CB radios. Anyway, so his platoon, he got shot before his platoon got stuck in this turkey shoot. It was, I guess, two pillboxes up on the hill or whatever, and two sets of machine gunners shooting down on his platoon, and he'd already been shot, so they left him behind with the medic. I don't know if he heard about what happened. I think he did. But they was pinned down, and he went and flanked the machine gunners, climbed up around the hill and went around him, took out the first nest, started making his way towards the second nest, and those soldiers shot my grandpa all up, and they tossed a grenade at him, and it blew his feet all apart. And he played dead, and then I guess they thought he was dead because they stopped shooting at him, started shooting at the Marines down in the cut. He pulled himself on his elbows and hands until he got close enough to that nest, tossed a grenade in, and stunned him, and he went in there with his knife and took him out. He said he passed out after that, thinking he was done for. Wakes up on a medical ship, both of his legs cut off. The Marines buried his legs in the beach over there. Anyway, so that comes to me when I'm 8 years old. We'd go down into this mine, and Grandpa'd put his hands on my shoulders, and it was my job to walk in front of him so he could balance himself so he didn't fall down on his wooden legs going down into that mine. And it wasn't an underground mine, it was open pit. And then I'd go back up to the truck, and I would grab the buckets, grab the tools, bring them back down to him, and we would dig for opals. His mine was called Opal Mountain Mining. When I was 12 years old, he taught me how to cut the stones, grind them down till the fire was right. And then we made triplets most of the time. Sometimes we'd make doublets. What a triplet is you get a quartz cap, and you grind that. You grind it down. Actually, you get a basalt, black basalt rock, or sometimes you use different colors, pink, mostly, mostly black. Brings the fire out better. Anyway, you'd find the fire, and you'd grind it down and get it right, and then you'd glue that basalt rock on there because opal's kind of like glass. It's really fragile. In fact, I think glass is more strong than opals are. So you use that basalt rock to kind of make it stronger. And then you cut off the excess and you grind it down on these diamond grinders, diamond saws, till you find the right fire. Then you take that plate of opal and you put quartz caps on it, and then you cut them out and grind it down so that they're nice and pretty. Anyway, he taught me how to do that when I was 12. He actually taught me how to drive when I was like 7. I think I was 6, 7, or 8. I can't remember. I think I got pictures. It looks kind of like I was around 6-ish. I can't remember for sure. And it was like this contraption that he had built. It had 2 wheels in the front, and it had a place to sit on both sides of the machine, but the steering wheel was in the middle of the machine, and I'd sit up on that hump. And then Grandpa had controls for brakes and for fuel, for gas, whatever. And he'd run it, and I'd steer it. And then my sisters would usually ride over on the passenger side. So it was kind of like Grandpa's sitting on the left of me, I'm steering in the middle, and the other guy, my sisters, would ride on the right side. There's another one of our trucks. Drive it all around town. Spencer's population back then was only about 30 people. It's a pretty small town. We had one paved road that went through town, which is the old highway, and then there was a road that went over to the new interstate, which I watched them build when I was a kid. And then everywhere else, all the other roads were just dirt roads. Anyway, my grandpa started teaching me how to drive the pickup truck when I was 10 years old. By the time I was 12, every Wednesday I got to drive the trash down to the dump, which is a couple miles south of town. Like maybe 3-4 miles away from where we lived, but I loved it. Every Wednesday. Oh, gotta load up the trash cans in the back of the pickup truck. Here's the keys. You go straight down there and you come straight back. All right, Grandpa. Me and my cousin would take turns driving. Then we'd drive up to the mine. He paid us $30 a week to do chores. Well, back in the 80s, $30 a week was, pretty good money. For a kid, especially. The chores were splitting logs, stacking wood, getting water for Grandma, because we had a well that was not connected to the house. And we had water that we could like bathe in and whatnot, but it came out of the creek. And, they had like this shed that had these concrete things and it kind of separated the stuff out of it. But the problem was if you had a dead animal up the road, or if an animal, defecated in the creek, here comes down the water. Can't really drink that. You could boil it, you could get it hot, you could bathe in it, but we didn't drink that water. I guess we could have. I think that's what the other people in town did, but we had this deep water well out by the chicken coop, and it was my job or my cousin's job to take the pitcher of water out and go get water from the well. And it wasn't one of those wells that's open. It was all pumps and stuff. There was a well house, and you'd push this button and you'd pull this lever, and it would like put water out, and it would put it out quick. But that water was so good. Spencer, Idaho is up on the Continental Divide, about 12 to 14 miles from Montana on the Idaho side. So that water was just pure water. It was so good. Didn't have any chemicals in it. It was just pure, delicious water. But one of the other jobs that my grandparents had me and my cousin do was go up to the mine and go hunt for opals. We drive that pickup truck 5 miles east of town and 2 miles up this really, really, really steep road, dirt road. You know, whoever was the passenger would have to get out and open up the cattle gates. We'd get up there and dig rocks. Like sometimes he'd come with us, sometimes he wouldn't. He had workers up there that took care of the mine in the summertime. In the wintertime, there's just no way. In fact, this one guy wanted to dig opals, and my grandpa said, "You dig whatever you want, you keep whatever you want, but your mine security." He had a big old teepee out there just west of the mine in the pine trees. And he lived in that teepee all spring, summer, and part of the fall. They had a D9 cat and a smaller cat, track hoe, dump truck, air compressors, jackhammers, rock drills, handheld jackhammers too. 35. We had a 35-pound jackhammer. We had a handheld jackhammer. Anyway, in the fall, Dennis, or no, not Dennis, Harry, he'd stay on year round. In fact, my grandparents had a single wide trailer home out by the garage, and he just lived in it. Anyway, he'd bring that big old cat down the hill and lug it on over on that dirt road over to town, and we'd park it in front of the garage. We keep our vehicles in the garage. The reason we did that was because I was talking about before how there would be snow drifts. Well, our driveway was probably about 250, I think about 250 feet long, maybe give or take 50 feet. I don't remember. Never measured it. Anyway, but it was east and west, and the canyon was north and south, and that wind would blow north and south, and every time we'd cut through the driveway, it'd be drifted in within a couple hours. And the other thing too, like both sides of the yard, like there was the north side, the north yard was where the house was, and the south yard was where the swing set was. But both sides of the yard like were higher elevation by a couple feet, probably 4 or 5 feet at the lowest drop, but or whatever. Anyway, that wind would blow back and forth, and you'd have anywhere from between 4, 5, 6 feet of snow on the ground on a normal year. And then it would drift across and be level, but that lowest point in the driveway would be like 8 feet or whatever. So what we did was we had that cat sitting in front of the garage with our vehicles in it, and if we needed to go to town, Idaho Falls, to get supplies or whatever, which we did every 2 weeks, we'd go, start that cat up and plow that driveway out, and then we could get our vehicles out. We'd put the cat back and ready for the next time we had to plow the driveway out to put the cars back. So like I said, we had snowshoes, snowmobiles. Never used skis. I think that would have been alright, but Grandpa didn't really use the snowshoes a lot. Wooden legs. But Grandma did. And we did. I miss those days. My grandpa died when he was 82 years old. My grandma lived till January 13th, 2019. No, 2020? Let me think. She was 90, would have been 97 years old. She was born in March of 1923. Yeah, it's 2020. I think it's pretty coming up here. Even when it's snowing. I hate it when it's snowing because I got to put chains on and it makes my back hurt. Those chains are heavy. I can barely lift them up. They're big mud chains. Barely lift them up to get them onto the tire, and then I gotta flop them over and do all the things. That's why it takes so long. But I figure, you know what? If I get over and I use my hours up, I got 14 hours a day, then I'll be that much further ahead in the morning. And if I'm loaded, I gotta put chains on anyway because this crude oil that I'm hauling, it's not the kind of crude oil that makes oil and gas. It's the kind of crude oil that makes plastics and other things. They put it in all kinds of stuff. But when we haul it, it has to be between 140 on the low end to 180 and no more than that. Like if it's above 180, it's too volatile, I guess. Anyway, so we usually pull it, like this load I have on now is 162 degrees. And it takes 2 hours on a good day to get from the well site to the railhead where we pump it off, it goes into these big tanks, and then they load train cars, and those train cars go down to Houston where they have refineries, but hold on here. Hey, who's that in that Peterbilt up there? Hey, you got it on? He's got his tag axles up, and I don't know if he knows it or not. And he goes over to the port, his tag axles are up, he'll get an overweight ticket. But anyway, the longer the oil sits in the trailer, the more it waxes up, and it actually solidifies into this nasty paste. Or paste? Oh, it's wax. It's crude wax. It's pretty nasty crap. Anyway, that's the end of the story. As soon as I get out of the canyon, I'll call my dispatcher and make sure he calls this guy. I don't know who it is. Tell him to put his tags down before he pulls over the port through the port. It's pretty hefty fine. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. Thanks for listening. My little drive here through Indian Canyon. Take care, everyone. Bye.